Hello there, and welcome to The Sleepy Sky. Maybe it's been a long day, or a long week that has quietly settled into tonight. Perhaps your thoughts have been moving a little too quickly, circling the same paths again and again. For now, you do not need to hold any of that. For now, you are invited to step into a forest at the edge of night, where branches cradle the last traces of light, and the air has begun to cool into something calm and kind. You do not have to do anything here. You're simply allowed to arrive. As you arrive, imagine the forest waiting just beyond a soft, fading horizon. The sky above is still tinged with pale blue, slowly deepening toward indigo. The shapes of trees stand in quiet silhouettes, tall and steady, their canopies catching the final glow of evening. The path beneath your feet is gentle. Layered with old leaves and soft soil, each step lands with a low, muted sound, like a small page turning in a very old book. The forest seems to lift its gaze toward you, not with urgency, but with a calm welcome that says silently that you have time. You have time, because the forest moves according to a different clock. In these twilight moments, countless tiny changes begin to unfold. Light levels fall, and in response tree leaves start to adjust the tiny pores scattered across their surfaces. The stomata that opened wide in daylight to take in carbon dioxide and release moisture. As the sun slips lower, many of those pores begin to close or narrow. The forest shifts into conservation mode, protecting its water, easing its metabolism, allowing its vast green body to rest. It is as if the entire woodland is taking a slow, deliberate breath out. That slow, deliberate breath moves through every layer of the forest. Up in the canopy, broad leaves that once caught intense midday light now hold a softer glow, their greens deepening as shadows gather. Lower down, the understory, young trees, shrubs, ferns, relaxes into dim, diffuse light. On the forest floor, the colours darken into warm browns and mossy greens, softened by the absence of harsh brightness. The edges of each leaf blur slightly. The forest's sharp details begin to melt into a gentle tapestry of shapes and tones. Here, nothing rushes to finish the day. Nothing rushes, and the air itself begins to change. When the sun was high, the forest surface warmed, releasing heat back into the atmosphere. Now that warmth is drifting away, and the air closest to the ground cools. Cool air is heavier, so it sinks into hollows, settles in small dips along the path, and gathers among tangled roots. You might imagine this coolness brushing softly against your ankles, rising slowly toward your chest, carrying with it a faint scent of damp bark and fertile soil. Forests are rich in natural oils and organic compounds, and as the evening slows evaporation, these scents become deeper, rounder, more noticeable. More noticeable, too, is the way sound begins to shift. During the day, forests can be full of bright noises, birds calling, insects buzzing, branches creaking in sun-warmed wind. As twilight deepens, these sharper sounds fade. Daybirds find their roosts and quiet their voices. Leafy movement softens as the air grows still. In their place, a different soundscape arises, the low murmur of distant insects, the faint rustle of a small animal moving carefully through undergrowth, perhaps the soft drip of water somewhere unseen. The overall volume lowers, and the forest's voice becomes a slow, soothing hum. A slow, soothing hum like this can begin to match your own inner rhythm. If your thoughts have been loud, they can start to fall into step with the forest's more gentle pace. You can allow them to arrive and depart like the last calls of daytime birds, present, then quiet. You do not have to hold on to them. It is all right to let your attention settle on something simpler, like the imagined feeling of cool air in your lungs, or the memory of a leaf-smooth surface against your fingertips. It is all right to let the forest carry some of the weight you've been holding. Let the forest carry some of the weight. Trees, after all, have been carrying things for a very long time. Their trunks hold years of growth, thickening ring by ring. Their roots hold soil together, gripping rock and earth through storms and droughts. Their branches hold nests, lichens, mosses, and sometimes fallen fragments of sky in the form of snow or rain. Yet they do all of this while standing still, while moving only slowly, growing, mending, turning their leaves with the light. There is a quiet strength in that steadiness, a reminder that not every burden requires motion. Not every burden requires motion, and the forest reminds you of this in small, patient ways. As night approaches, photosynthesis slows. The machinery inside each leaf reduces its pace, no longer racing to convert light into energy. Chloroplasts, the tiny green structures that captured sunlight all day, ease into a quieter state, storing the products of their work, handing them over to other parts of the tree for later use. At sunset, a whole forest gently steps down its activity, from canopy to roots, like a vast organism dimming its inner lights. This is not an ending, but a pause meant for restoration. Restoration begins when the forest allows itself to be held by darkness. As the last streaks of colour fade from the sky, the understory glows faintly with residual light, a dusky emerald that slowly dissolves into blue-grey. In this softer palette, details give way to impressions. You might notice the way trunks become gentle columns rather than distinct bark patterns, how ferns become feathered shapes rather than precise fronds. This visual quieting helps the brain slow down. Without sharp contrasts or sudden flashes, the mind has less to chase. It can rest against the scene like a hand resting on cool stone. Like a hand resting on cool stone, your awareness can lean into the temperature of the forest night. The soil underfoot is cooler than the air just above it, and this gradient creates tiny movements you cannot see. Warm air rises from patches still holding heat. Cooler air flows in to replace it. These fine, slow currents swirl around roots and stones, smoothing the environment into a more uniform, comfortable state. Plants, animals, and even microbes respond to this change, adjusting their metabolisms just enough to make the most of the night ahead. The night ahead will be long by human perception, yet it is simply another turn in an endless cycle for the forest. Microorganisms in the soil continue breaking down fallen leaves and wood, releasing nutrients back into the earth. Fungi extend delicate threads a little farther through the dark, weaving themselves between roots and stones. Tiny insects move cautiously through the leaf litter, carrying food, building small shelters, joining in the steady work that never fully stops. The forest's rest does not mean inactivity. It means a softer, deeper kind of motion that fits within the stillness. Within the stillness, your own body begins to respond. Heart rate may slow, breathing may lengthen, muscles may unclench without you telling them to. This happens because rest is not a luxury. It is a biological pattern as essential as any other. Just as forests conserve water and energy during the night to grow stronger in daylight, your body uses quiet hours to repair tissues, balance hormones, and organize memories. You do not need to consciously direct these processes. They are woven into you, as natural as the tilt of the earth that brings night in the first place. It can be comforting to remember that your need for rest is part of the same physics and biology that shape forests, oceans, and skies. You're not stepping away from the world when you slow down. You're stepping into a shared rhythm that every living system follows. The forest around you, this imagined woodland beneath the darkening sky, is not separate from you. It offers a mirror, showing that there is wisdom in easing, in pausing, in trusting that tomorrow will come in its own time. Trusting that tomorrow will come allows you to release the urgency of daylight tasks. The tree is not planning how many new leaves they must grow by morning. The soil is not cataloguing each grain. The forest is not rehearsing what the dawn will require of it. It simply turns inward. It accepts the coolness, the darkness, the slower pulse. It lets the night hold it. You're welcome to do the same. You're welcome to let the forest night cradle your awareness, as if your thoughts were small, gentle creatures finding their nests among roots and moss. Let your thoughts nest among roots and moss. Imagine the softness of that place, the springy give of damp ground beneath your weight, the faint tickle of fine roots, the subtle scent of humus rich with life. Overhead, branches weave together, forming a loose roof that filters starlight into tiny scattered glows. A breeze touches the highest leaves, but down here, near the soil, the air is almost still. The world feels smaller, safer, closer. You're not exposed. You are held. You are held by this quiet image, and in that holding, there is room to let something go. Perhaps a worry loosens slightly, like a vine slipping free from a tree trunk. Perhaps a lingering thought about tomorrow fades into the background, like a faint sound moving deeper into the woods. You do not need to banish anything. You only need to allow distance. The forest knows how to give distance, how to tuck certain things away in shade so others can come forward into light. Tonight, it offers that same gentle sorting to you. In this gentle sorting, the forest becomes less a place outside you and more a state within you. Its cycles of rest and renewal echo in your own rhythms. Its unhurried transformations, leaves aging, bark thickening, soils deepening, remind you that change rarely needs to be rushed. Over years and centuries, forests rebuild themselves from fire, storm, and drought. They do so not by striving, but by following simple cues: light, water, temperature, time. You, too, can follow simple cues: the weight of your body on the bed, the sound of your breath, the softness of night air against your skin. Against your skin you might imagine the faintest brush of cool forest wind, just enough to remind you that somewhere out there, real branches are swaying under stars, real leaves are closing their pores, real roots are drinking from hidden water. The science of these things is not separate from their comfort. Knowing that trees lower their energy use at night, that forests conserve what they need to thrive, can make your own choice to rest feel less like stopping and more like aligning. Aligning with that quiet the forest around you seems to breathe, a slow, deep presence that fills the space between trunks, between leaves, between one heartbeat and the next. You're not required to do anything with this feeling. Simply noticing is enough. Simply breathing alongside it is enough. In this shared breath, the day feels farther away. In this shared breath, the night feels kinder. In this shared breath, a soft truth settles in, that in slowing down, life is not diminished but allowed to show its most honest shape. The forest knows this. It lives by it. In the softened hours of night, it reveals its quiet transformations, its gentle reorganizing of energy and time, its trust in the cycle that always continues. From this first breath of green stillness, we drift toward the quiet conversations carried through forest winds. As night approaches the forest, air that once felt busy and bright begins to move in quieter ways. What was daytime wind, full of restless shifts and sudden gusts, becomes something more measured. Temperatures change slowly as the sun slips away, and with those changes the atmosphere above the forest rearranges itself. Warm air that hovered close to the ground during the day starts to rise, while cooler air settles from higher layers. From this gentle exchange the evening breeze is born, not as a single sweeping motion, but as many soft layered flows. Those layered flows slip between trunks and branches, finding paths of least resistance through the forest. Above the canopy, the air still travels with broader strokes, skimming over the tops of trees in long, steady streams. But once it reaches the complex architecture of leaves and limbs, it breaks apart into dozens of smaller currents. Each small current touches different surfaces, needles, bark, moss, and in those touches the forest begins to speak in its own quiet language. The quiet language of the forest is a language of movement and vibration. Every leaf has its own shape, its own texture, its own way of catching the air. A tall, broad leaf will ripple slowly, its edges folding and unfolding like a relaxed hand. A narrow, slender leaf will flutter in a quicker pattern, flickering in place with delicate precision. Needles on conifers shimmer with fine, almost invisible trembling, like tiny strings responding to a hidden note. Together these movements create a soft chorus, a layered soundscape that only fully emerges when the day's sharper noises fade. When those sharper noises fade, the forest starts to listen to its own breath. Wind that presses against one side of the canopy creates changes in pressure on the other side. These changes ripple downward as subtle waves, bending stems, lifting small branches, nudging loose bark. Animals sensitive to vibration feel these signals through their feet and fur. Insects sense shifts in air pressure and direction. Birds resting on high branches adjust their balance as the wood beneath them sways, trusting the slow elasticity of the trees. The wind is not a stranger here. It is an old companion, returning each evening with familiar gestures. Familiar gestures come from the way air cools differently in each part of the forest. Open clearings release their warmth quickly, allowing cooler air to pool near the ground. Dense thickets hold heat longer, creating small pockets of milder temperature. As these variations form, air begins to move from one place to another, sliding gently from warmer spaces into cooler ones. This movement forms tiny, almost invisible breezes, the kind that stir only the lowest leaves or move a single strand of spider silk. In these minute motions, the forest's atmosphere begins to settle into balance. Balance appears in the sound of leaves brushing one another. The rustle of midday can become a hush at dusk, not disappearing, but lowering in tone, slowing in rhythm. The clatter of dry leaves becomes a muted sigh. The hiss through pine needles softens into a distant murmur. When air passes through densely packed foliage, it loses some of its sharpness, turning from a cutting force into a smoothing presence. A mind tuned to this soundscape can find a similar transformation, letting thoughts move from quick edges to rounded corners. It is gentle to allow inner noise to follow the wind into something softer. As the wind grows more even, a phenomenon known as the boundary layer shapes the experience of every leaf. Just above any surface, air slows due to friction. For leaves, this creates a thin, protective layer of slower moving air wrapped around them. In strong winds, this layer is disrupted again and again. In calmer evening currents, it stabilizes. Gas exchange and the passing of carbon dioxide and water vapor quiets. Leaves are no longer working at full pace. Their breathing, in a sense, settles. A forest of millions of leaves eases its collective effort, and the whole canopy relaxes. The whole canopy relaxes into a kind of suspended stillness, even while it continues to move. Large branches sway with slow, rounded arcs, responding to wind's touch with built-in flexibility. Wood is strong but not rigid. Fibers bend to share the strain, distributing each gust across a broad structure. This is how trees endure storms, by yielding, not by resisting. Even on a mild evening, this principle remains, visible in every gentle sway. There is a quiet lesson in that movement, a reminder that strength often lives in softness and the willingness to bend. Beneath this high, shifting roof, the understory feels a different kind of air. Currents that raced above are filtered by branches and leaves, arriving below as slower, more diffused motions. Small shrubs might feel the faintest brush of a breeze that was strong only minutes before. Ferns shift just enough for a single frond to tilt. Young saplings nod their crowns with almost ceremonious care. The forest modifies the wind as it passes, turning something potentially harsh into something protective. The space beneath the canopy becomes a sheltered world, a place where motion is present but never overwhelming. Never overwhelming are the scents carried by this softened wind. As the air cools, volatile compounds released by leaves and needles change in strength. The resinous aroma of conifers may deepen, rising like a quiet warmth from bark and branch. The green, slightly sharp scent of crushed leaves fades into something rounder, more earthy. Moist soil exhales when stirred by passing currents, sending up hints of mineral, root, and old rain. These scents do not rush through the forest. They drift, lingering between trunks, comfortable in their slow travel. It is easy for a wandering mind to rest on such gentle details. Resting on gentle details, attention may notice the way wind carries more than temperature and scent. Within each forest, trees release chemical messages into the air when they are stressed by drought, insect attack, or injury. These airborne compounds, though invisible, can be detected by neighbouring trees and plants. In response, those neighbours may alter their own chemistry, producing protective substances, adjusting growth, or changing how attractive they are to herbivores. Wind becomes the courier of these quiet warnings and replies, a soft postal system moving through leaves. The forest uses air not just as environment, but as a shared conversation. A shared conversation also takes place higher above, where birds and insects navigate by subtle differences in pressure and flow. Small changes in wind direction help migratory birds stay on course during long journeys. Light breezes around the canopy guide moths and beetles as they search for flowers or tree sap. Even bats read the air with delicate sensitivity, using both echoes and faint currents to move silently between feeding grounds and roosts. To them, the wind is not random. It is patterned, stable, and full of cues that mark safe routes and familiar spaces. Familiar spaces become even more pronounced when the forest landscape shapes the wind. On ridges, air may speed up as it squeezes over high ground, then slow as it descends into valleys. In narrow ravines, breezes are funneled into narrow bands of movement. The shape of the land underneath the trees guides each current, carving invisible rivers in the air. The trees respond accordingly. Branches on windward sides often grow thicker or lean slightly, while sheltered sides remain more delicate. Over years, this sculpting by wind gives forests a subtle asymmetry, a record of air's persistent yet gentle hand. A gentle hand also touches the smallest inhabitants of leaves, the stomata mentioned before, those tiny openings that allow plants to exchange gases with the world. Wind influences how quickly water vapour leaves these openings, how rapidly fresh carbon dioxide arrives for photosynthesis, and how effectively heat is removed from the leaf surface. In calm air, moisture can accumulate close to the leaf, slowing cooling. A light breeze clears this layer, carrying away warmth and humidity, helping the leaf maintain a stable temperature. Forest winds act as a natural regulation system, cooling and balancing foliage with effortless precision. Effortless precision is found as well in the way nighttime breezes arise from temperature differences between forest and open land. When the sun has gone, the ground in open areas cools quickly, while the canopy in a dense forest releases heat more gradually. These differences set small pressure gradients into motion, drawing air gently from one place to another. The result can be a soft movement of air flowing outward from forests at certain times and inward at others, depending on the larger landscape. This breathing of air in and out further ties the forest to the surrounding world, blending boundaries between inside and outside. Boundaries also soften in the experience of sound. As evening deepens, the spectrum of noises narrows. Quick, high-pitched sounds become less frequent. Slow, low-frequency sounds, wind through large branches, distant rustling, the faint murmur of a nearby stream, become more prominent. Low sounds travel further in cool, dense air, creating a sense of space that feels broader, yet calmer. Wind carries these tones along its path, smoothing sharp edges, turning the forest into a resonant chamber for gentle vibrations. It can feel as though the whole woodland is humming a quiet, steady note. Humming a quiet, steady note. The forest offers a kind of reassurance that is not spoken in words. Air moves, but does not rush. Leaves stir, but do not thrash. Branches sway, but rarely break on calm nights. There is constancy in these movements, a promise that the forest will continue its slow dialogue with wind, whether watched or unwatched. This constancy suggests a simple comfort. It is all right for thought and feeling to slow into the same gentle cadence. Cadence appears even in the pauses, in those moments when the wind seems to stop altogether. The forest falls nearly silent, leaves hanging motionless, scents settling. In reality, the air is still moving, only so softly that branches no longer respond. This near stillness allows animals to listen more clearly. An owl can detect the faint scurry of a mouse on dry leaves. A deer can hear the gentle snap of a twig further away. Wind alternates between motion and rest, between touch and non-touch, creating patterns that shape the behaviour of every creature beneath the canopy. Beneath the canopy, the air near the forest floor is often the calmest. Protected from strong currents, it forms a stable layer where insects fly in straight, untroubled lines, and tiny seeds drift down without being carried far. Here, the wind's language becomes almost a whisper. The smallest variations in flow can influence how spores from fungi disperse, how pollen reaches low-growing plants, how scents from soil and bark rise just high enough for nearby noses to notice. Even when nearly still, the air participates in the forest's quiet alchemy. Quiet alchemy is present in the way wind and leaves create ever-changing patterns of light and shadow. Even at night, with only moon or starlight filtering through the canopy, these patterns exist. A branch moving slightly can turn a patch of brightness into gentle darkness, then back again. As breezes shift, these shadows drift across moss, stones and trunks, like slow-moving brush strokes. To eyes that have adjusted to the low light, this motion feels soothing, a visual echo of the wind's own rhythm. Rhythm, more than anything, defines the soft language of the leaves and air. There is rhythm in the sway of branches, in the alternating hush and rustle, in the way breezes arrive in pulses rather than constant streams. There is rhythm in how the forest breathes moisture into the sky and receives cooler air in return. There is rhythm in the timing of chemical signals, in the nightly patterns of scent and sound. This rhythm does not ask for attention. It simply continues, open to any awareness that drifts softly enough to join it. In that joining, there is a deep quiet, not the quiet of emptiness, but the quiet of everything moving together at a gentle pace. Wind carries messages, leaves translate them into motion, trees flex and yield, animals listen and respond. The forest and the air are not separate, they are partners in a slow, ongoing conversation that keeps the ecosystem balanced and alive. In that conversation, a simple truth rests at the center. Harmony does not always arrive with silence. It often arrives with soft, continuous motion, shaped by forces that never hurry and never truly stop. Wind and leaves show this with every passing night, offering a picture of a world where change is constant yet calming, where movement is steady and kind. And with the wind guiding us, we drift into the hidden waters flowing beneath every forest. Beneath the quiet surface of the forest floor, where moss softens each footprint and fallen leaves settle into gentle layers, another world is moving. It moves slowly, almost silently, in a way that could be mistaken for stillness if you did not look closely or listen patiently. But water is always at work beneath the trees. It gathers, it rises, it sinks, and it drifts through networks older than any living trunk above it. If the wind shapes the language of leaves, then water shapes the forest's hidden pulse. That hidden pulse begins with a delicate scientific truth. Water is pulled upward through trees by cohesion and tension. Each droplet clings to the next, forming an unbroken chain from the roots to the highest leaves. As water evaporates from leaf surfaces during the day, it creates a subtle, continuous pull, like a long, soft thread being drawn upward. Even one tiny bubble trapped in this column can disrupt the flow, which is why trees have evolved intricate channels to keep the water steady. This unseen motion is happening all the time, even now, even as night settles. As night settles, the pull weakens. Cooler temperatures slow evaporation from the leaves, allowing the water within trunks to redistribute. Some of it sinks back toward the roots, rehydrating tissues that have worked through the day. Some remain suspended in the xylem waiting for dawn. Trees ease their internal movements just as animals do, conserving moisture until the sun returns. But beneath the trees, below soil and root and stone, other waters continue their slower, quieter journey. A quieter journey moves through spaces the eye cannot see. Tiny pores between grains of soil, narrow channels carved by worms and roots, thin films of moisture clinging to mineral surfaces. Soil is not solid. It is a tapestry of empty spaces woven between particles of sand, silt, and clay. These spaces hold water the way a sponge does, but more gently, allowing it to slip through in thin, patient threads. Some water comes from rain that fell days ago. Some comes from dew that soaked into the surface. Some has been underground far longer, travelling from distant hills. Travelling from distant hills, this groundwater is steady and cool. It flows downhill, pulled by gravity, guided by layers of earth with different densities. Where bedrock lies close to the surface, water rises to meet it, forming slow, unseen streams beneath the roots. Where the soil is deep and porous, water may sink further, feeding springs that will emerge somewhere else entirely. The forest drinks from these sources without ever seeing them, sending roots downward in delicate branching patterns until they find just enough moisture to sustain the living world above. That living world depends on countless interactions between soil and water. Soil rich with organic matter, decomposed leaves, wood, and moss, can hold far more moisture than bare mineral ground. Water binds to these organic particles, storing nourishment for future days. As fungi break down fallen material, they release nutrients into this water, transforming the soil into a slow-moving reservoir of life. Tiny currents carry these nutrients toward roots, where they are absorbed and sent upward through the tree. Even the tallest forest giants rely on these subtle underground rivers. These underground rivers carry more than nutrients. They also hold memories of rain. When storms pass overhead, their water seeps down through layers of leaf litter and humus, absorbing scents and minerals along the way. The forest floor, rich with the remains of past seasons, infuses the water with the chemistry of its history. When that water rises through roots, the tree receives a quiet record of the forest's past. What grew, what decayed, what changed in the soil. Water becomes a storyteller carrying the forest's timeline. Carrying the forest's timeline, dew forms another gentle chapter. In the cool hours of early morning, before sunrise warms the leaves, droplets gather on every surface. They bead along blades of grass. They rest in the tiny hollows of fern fronds. They slide into the ridges of bark. Dew is born when moisture in the air condenses onto cool surfaces, and forests are ideal places for it to form. The canopy traps humidity, and the nighttime stillness allows air to cool without disturbance. Dew becomes a soft, shimmering layer that nourishes plants and replenishes soil. Replenishing soil is a slow, continual act. Each drop that sinks downward carries dissolved minerals, calcium, magnesium, potassium, that plants need to grow. Some droplets cling to roots directly. Others join larger currents flowing deeper below. Over time, water weaves a pattern of nourishment through the entire forest, rising and falling in cycles that mirror the rhythms of day and night. The flow is not fast, but it is persistent, shaping the life above in ways that feel quiet yet profound. Profound, too, are the wet places within forests, the small seeps where water breaks through the ground, the shaded springs that bubble gently between stones, the wetland where trees and sedges stand ankle-deep in soft mud. These places are the forest's lungs. They store and release water with remarkable stability, moderating floods after heavy rain and nourishing streams during dry spells. At night, when the air cools, mist often rises from them, a delicate silver veil hovering above moss and water. Mist drifts upward like breath, connecting earth and air in a soft exhale. A soft exhale moves through the forest each dawn when the air is coolest. Mist gathers in low places, hollows, valleys, shaded glens, where cold air settles. It collects in layers, hiding the ground in a pale, shifting cloud. Trees rise from this mist like slow-moving shapes in a dream. This moisture eventually returns to the canopy, condensing on leaves before falling in drops so small and quiet they resemble scattered whispers. Even without rain, a forest can water itself through these subtle exchanges of vapour and liquid. These subtle exchanges make forests influential agents in the water cycle. Through transpiration, the release of water vapour from leaves into the air, forests contribute massive amounts of moisture to the atmosphere. In some regions, as much as half of the rainfall originates from trees themselves. Water evaporates from leaves, rises into the sky, forms clouds, and eventually returns as rain. Forests create their own weather in this way, maintaining a balance that sustains rivers, lakes, and wetlands. This cycle continues through the night, but at a gentler pace, the forest's breath slowing as darkness deepens. As darkness deepens, the forest's smallest inhabitants respond to water in their own ways. Amphibians, frogs, salamanders, newts use nighttime dampness to move more freely, their delicate skin protected from drying out. Insects that rely on moisture emerge from hidden places, navigating by scent and humidity. Even small mammals depend on night-cooled water sources, lapping at quiet pools or gathering droplets from leaves. Every creature in the forest is tied to the steady presence of water, visible or hidden. Visible or hidden, water shapes the land itself. Over centuries, streams carve channels, break down soil, and move sediment from high places to low. Even gentle flows can slowly sculpt a valley, rounding stones and softening cliffs. In the forest, many of these changes happen beneath the surface, where roots anchor soil while water shifts it grain by grain. This slow erosion feeds nutrients into rivers and creates fertile ground for new growth. Change is always happening, not in dramatic surges, but in patient, deliberate reshaping. Patient, deliberate reshaping appears even in the quietest forms of water. The thin films that cling to roots, the droplets trapped in hollows of bark, the moisture held within decaying leaves. These microhabitats support mosses, algae, tiny invertebrates, entire worlds of life that depend on a few millimeters of fluid. In the vastness of the forest, these pockets are easy to overlook, yet they anchor complex webs of existence. Water finds its way into every crevice, sustaining even the most fragile beings. Sustaining fragile beings is one of water's softest roles. When drought comes, forests face uncertainty. Leaves conserve moisture by closing their pores, roots grow deeper in search of water, underground rivers shrink. But when rain finally begins to fall, the forest responds immediately. Dry bark darkens, leaves lift, soil swells with renewed life. Water does not simply sustain the forest, it revives it, reconnecting systems that had been conserving, waiting, hoping for replenishment. Even the faintest drizzle offers relief. Relief comes in the way sound changes when water arrives. A light rain patters on leaves, creating layers of soft percussion. Larger drops fall from canopy to understory, their rhythm slow and soothing. The forest floor absorbs the sound, turning sharp impacts into muffled taps. After rainfall, droplets cling to branches and continue to fall in irregular patterns. This gentle dripping can last for hours, reminding every living thing that water has passed through, refreshing and restoring. Refreshing and restoring, water shapes the forest's quiet relationships. It connects tree to tree through shared underground reservoirs. It binds soil to root. It allows fungi to spread, moss to grow, insects to thrive. It cools the air, softens the ground, carries nutrients, dissolves minerals, forms clouds, and returns as rain. There is no corner of the forest untouched by it. Even the seemingly driest places hold moisture deep within, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Waiting for the right moment is something the forest does well. Its relationship with water is timeless, a cycle of receiving, holding, and releasing. It teaches that movement does not need to be constant to be meaningful. Sometimes the most important forces are the ones that move slowly, hidden beneath the surface, shaping the world with patience. Tonight the hidden rivers beneath the roots continue their quiet work, flowing softly through soil and stone. From water's silent journey, we rise toward the layered breathing of the forest canopy. High above the forest floor, where branches weave themselves into slow-moving rivers of green, the canopy stretches like a suspended world. It is a world built layer by layer, from the tall emergent trees that touch the sky, down to the broad interlaced boughs that catch the last strands of daylight. As dusk settles, the canopy becomes a soft and luminous realm, holding its own rhythms, its own quiet breath, its own gentle sense of time. Time in the canopy moves differently. Light arrives first to its highest leaves, warming them before the understory feels even a touch. Heat gathers in the upper branches, creating tiny shifts in temperature that guide air currents through the forest. As evening comes, this warmth fades, and the air above the canopy cools, drifting downward in slow spiraling currents. These temperature gradients shape the lives within these heights, where each shift in warmth and shade influences everything from birds' flight paths to the opening and closing of leaves. The forest canopy becomes a tapestry of soft transitions. Soft transitions shape the lives of the leaves themselves. Each leaf acts as both a collector and a filter. It gathers sunlight for photosynthesis during the day, then slows its internal machinery as night deepens. Some leaves curl slightly, conserving moisture. Others remain open, allowing cooled air to drift across their surfaces. The microscopic pores on their undersides, stomata, adjust to the change in temperature and humidity, balancing the exchange of gases with the need to preserve water. Even these small openings participate in the night's quiet rhythm, widening or narrowing as needed. As needed, the canopy shifts into a different kind of stillness. The vibrant movement of daytime creatures softens. Birds settle deeper into their branches, folding their wings with unhurried grace. Daytime insects quiet their wings. Even the monkeys and squirrels in tropical forests slow their climbing and searching, their movements becoming measured and light. The canopy becomes a sanctuary of rest, where only the subtlest gestures remain. A feather settling, a leaf turning, a small weight shifting against bark. These moments are gentle, almost imperceptible, yet they define the nighttime mood. That nighttime mood is shaped too by sound. Sound in the canopy moves differently than sound on the forest floor. High above, where winds pass more freely, branches sway with soft creaks. Pine needles whisper against each other. Broad leaves flutter in hushed patterns as breezes drift through. In some forests, the canopy hums with the low vibration of insects that awaken after sunset. In others, it echoes with the mellow calls of night birds. These sounds are never loud. Instead, they blend into a layered hush that feels both vast and intimate. The air itself seems to listen. When the air listens, scents change as well. Resin warms slowly during the day, then releases its aroma in deeper waves once evening cools the bark. The smell of pine becomes sharper. The scent of eucalyptus softens into sweet clarity. In deciduous forests, the fragrance of leaves intensifies, especially after a warm day, as oils evaporate more gently. These scents drift downward, filling the understory with hints of what moves above. They create a feeling of being surrounded not just by trees but by the breath of a living system that holds an entire world within its branches. High canopies in tropical forests support insects, birds, mammals, orchids, mosses, and even small pools of water held in the bowls of bromeliads. Some animals spend their entire lives without touching the forest floor. Their habitats exist in the open air, connected by branches, vines, and leaves. Every sway of the canopy becomes a part of their landscape, a slow-moving ocean of green where life drifts rather than stands still. The canopy is a floating continent, anchored yet free. Anchored yet free, the light within the canopy performs its own quiet transformations. Throughout the day, sunlight filters through leaves in shifting patterns, dapples, stripes, soft glowing patches. As sunset approaches, that light begins to change. Gold deepens into amber, green becomes darker, more saturated. At certain moments, the canopy glows with a warm and silent radiance, as if holding the last breath of the sun. Then, slowly, that radiance fades into muted tones, leaving only the cool silver of moonlight to settle across the branches. Moonlight settles gently, turning each leaf edge into a soft line of light. This mirrored glow creates the illusion of movement even when everything is still. A breeze stirs the branches, and moonlit leaves shimmer in waves. In tropical forests where humidity is high, the light scatters into faint halos around each leaf cluster. In temperate forests, the moon may illuminate frost crystals, turning the canopy into a silver net. In deserts, sparse canopies form sharp silhouettes against starlight. Whatever the forest, night transforms the canopy into an ethereal, suspended world. A suspended world holds many layers. At the top are emergent trees, giants that rise above the canopy to meet the open sky. They withstand stronger winds and gather sunlight long after lower leaves fall into shadow. Beneath them is the upper canopy layer, dense with interlocking branches where birds glide from treetop to treetop. Below that, the mid-canopy holds shrubs, young trees, and epiphytes, plants that grow upon other plants without harming them. Finally, the understory receives filtered light, creating a dim yet thriving habitat where ferns, fungi, and small creatures live with patience. With patience, species inhabit these layers in ways that avoid competition. Birds with longer wings fly in the upper canopy. Those with rounded wings maneuver in the denser mid-canopy. Insects seek flowers at specific heights, and predators follow prey into the layers where they feel safest. Epiphytes cling to high branches to catch sun and moisture, while mosses thrive in shaded regions with stable humidity. Each layer works together to distribute space, resources, and energy. Diversity blooms from these gradients of light and temperature. Light and temperature guide the canopy's engineering as well. Flexible branches allow trees to withstand wind without breaking. Their elasticity is remarkable, designed to bend, sway, and absorb energy. This bending helps prevent damage during storms, allowing the forest to survive forceful winds by moving with them. Leaves also shift their orientation subtly throughout the day, maximizing light capture while preventing overheating. At night they rest, turning inward slightly, reflecting the forest's transition into stillness. Stillness deepens as nocturnal animals emerge. Owls glide through the canopy on wings lined with soft fringes, enabling silent flight. Bats flutter between branches, guided by echoes rather than light. Insects tap out soft rhythms on leaves. Small predators navigate through the canopy, each footfall cushioned by moss, lichen, or bark. These nighttime residents move with intention, conserving energy while seeking food. Their gentle presence adds texture to the canopy's quiet, a pattern of life thriving in darkness. In darkness, humidity often rises. Moisture from the forest floor drifts upward, cooling the air within the canopy. Leaves collect dew along their edges, forming droplets that hang like small beads of glass. These droplets catch moonlight before falling to the ground in slow, unhurried drops. This nightly condensation is essential for many plants and animals, offering subtle hydration even without rainfall. It is the forest's soft reminder that nourishment can be found even in the quietest hours. The quietest hours reveal how intricately the canopy connects to all other parts of the forest. It shields the understory from harsh sunlight and strong winds. It shapes the movement of rain, distributing it gradually so the soil can absorb moisture without erosion. It provides habitats for creatures that pollinate flowers, disperse seeds, and maintain ecological balance. Everything beneath the canopy depends on this suspended world, even the roots far below in the earth. Far below in the earth, the hidden networks of roots mirror the networks of branches above. Just as roots spread outward to gather water, branches spread outward to gather light. The canopy is the forest's mirror to the sky, an upward extension of the same quiet, intent to survive, grow, and rest. When the canopy breathes, the forest breathes. When the canopy settles, the forest settles. In its stillness, life continues quietly, gracefully, without need for urgency. Let the canopy's calm settle around your thoughts, just as it settles over the land. Let the soft green light and patient shadows ease the weight of the day. Let the suspended world above remind you that rest can be elevated, expansive, and quietly profound. From this high green world we drift down into the deep histories written in forest trees. Within every forest, where long shadows stretch across roots and fallen leaves, trees stand as the quiet archivists of time. Their trunks rise from the soil with a stillness that feels eternal. Yet within that stillness, countless stories are being held. Trees do not speak, but they remember. They hold seasons inside their rings, storms within their scars, and whole histories in the spiral grain of their wood. Entering this chapter is like stepping into an unwritten library, one where every line has been shaped by wind, water, light, and patience. Patience is the first truth of a tree's memory. Each year, a tree adds a new ring beneath its bark. In times of abundance, the ring is wide, showing rapid growth. In lean years, cold winters, dry summers, shaded seasons, the ring narrows to a thin, pale line. These patterns allow scientists to read climate long before human records existed. This gentle fact anchors the story. Trees store time not in ink or paper, but in living tissue that expands with every passing year. Even the oldest giants began as fragile saplings, building their memories slowly. Slowly. A tree strengthens itself. Wood forms in layers. Heartwood at the centre, sapwood surrounding it. Heartwood carries the echoes of decades, sometimes centuries. Sapwood carries water and nutrients upward through the trunk. New wood forms outward in spirals, following the subtle twist of the tree's growth. That spiral is not random. It reflects how the tree responds to wind, leaning slightly in the direction of prevailing breezes, adjusting its fibre to better withstand storms. Even the pattern of growth is a memory of the forest's weather. Weather leaves its marks as well. When lightning strikes, it may leave a charred groove along the trunk, darkening the wood beneath. When a branch breaks during a storm, the tree seals the wound behind protective layers, forming a knot that will remain visible long after the injury is healed. Droughts leave narrow rings, floods leave mineral traces, fires leave fractures. A fallen neighbour allows sunlight to reach new leaves, creating a sudden burst of growth recorded in the tree's rings. Nothing passes through a forest unnoticed by its trees. By its trees, the forest stores even deeper stories. Old-growth stands can hold centuries of uninterrupted memory, their towering trunks preserving periods of cold, warmth, abundance, scarcity, and subtle change. In some forests, trees have lived longer than many civilizations. Bristlecone pines exceeding 4,000 years, redwoods reaching 2,000. These elders witnessed dawns long before modern calendars, their earliest rings forming at times when the night sky held stars in slightly different positions. They remember Earth as it once was. Once was. The forest floor held ancient roots stretching outward like slow-moving rivers of wood. Roots do not simply anchor trees, they search, sense, and record. When soil becomes richer with nutrients, roots spread more widely. When competition increases, they thicken and change direction. When storms erode surface soil, roots adapt by gripping deeper layers. Within these patterns are clues about past landscapes, where water flowed, where fires burned, where other trees once stood. Roots map memory into the ground itself. Into the ground, chemical signals move as well. Trees release compounds through their roots, subtle messages carried by moisture. Some signals warn neighbouring trees of drought, prompting them to close their leaf pores earlier in the day. Others warn of insect attack, leading nearby trees to change their internal chemistry. These interactions form a living record of environmental pressures. Even when no damage is visible above ground, the soil may hold the memory of stress through shifts in shared chemical pathways. Shared chemical pathways also run through the bark. Bark grows in textured layers, forming ridges that deepen with age. In some species, bark peels away in papery sheets, shedding old growth and revealing fresh patterns beneath. In others, bark thickens into rugged plates that resist fire. These textures are shaped by climate, moisture, and time. A tree that grows in wet lowlands may have smoother bark, while one in a dry or fire-prone region develops protective layers. The bark becomes an ongoing record of environmental conditions, a slow accumulation of resilience. Resilience echoes throughout the tree. Its branches grow toward a light in arcs that seem effortless, though each curve was shaped by countless decisions made by cells responding to gravity and illumination. When a branch becomes shaded, it slows its growth. When sunlight returns, it accelerates again. Over decades, these shifts form sweeping structures that look like gestures frozen in air. The tree reaching, adjusting, finding balance. This architecture reveals how the tree has negotiated space with its neighbours, each branch a paragraph in its quiet memoir. Its quiet memoir is stored not only in wood and bark, but also in leaves. Leaves record shorter stories, one season at a time, but they do so with clarity. The shape of a leaf reflects the climate in which it evolved. Broad leaves capture more light in shaded forests. Narrow leaves conserve water in dry regions. Leaf scars on branches show where leaves once grew, creating traces of past seasons. Even leaf litter on the forest floor becomes part of the historical record, breaking down into the soil that future trees will use to form their rings. Forming rings is only one way trees hold memory. Another is in their genetic shifts. Small variations pass through seeds that reflect the selective pressures of their environment. Seeds carry the adaptations of countless ancestors, each shaped by the conditions they survived. When a seed germinates, it brings not just new life, but also old memory. A forest is not simply a collection of trees. It is a lineage of experience unfolding slowly across time. Across time, trees have stored human stories as well. Many cultures carved symbols into bark, leaving messages for future generations. Others relied on trees as landmarks, trusted guides through vast landscapes. Even today, scientists read tree rings to understand volcanic eruptions, ancient droughts, shifts in atmospheric composition, and long cycles of climate. Trees record events we might otherwise forget, holding truth without judgment, without urgency, without end. Without end, their presence becomes a lesson in endurance. Trees grow slowly, yet they persist. They face storm after storm. They lose branches and regrow. They adapt to change with quiet consistency. Their memories are built not from dramatic moments, but from steady accumulation. A new layer added each year, a subtle shift in direction, a faint trace of scarcity or abundance. Their wisdom is patient, and their patience is steady. Steady, too, is the comfort they offer. The scent of aged wood, rich and earthy, grounds the mind. The cool touch of bark, textured and calm, is like a reminder of time's gentle movement. The muted sound of branches shifting in the wind carries a kind of reassurance that the forest has weathered so much, and yet it stands. Trees embody resilience softened by age. Let the steadiness of their years soften your own. Let the long memory of trees remind you that change can be slow, healing can be gradual, and growth can occur in quiet layers. There is no need to rush. There is only the gentle unfolding of time, marked by rings you may never see but can always feel. From these long memories we wander toward the animals who share the forest's quiet hours. As twilight settles across the forest, movement softens, daylight fades into muted blues, and the air cools enough for breath to gather in faint clouds against the darkness. Within this dimming world, animals shift into rhythms shaped by energy, temperature, and instinct. Their lives become slower, gentler, and more attuned to the quiet around them. Each creature, from the smallest insect to the watchful owl perched above, participates in a nightly choreography that has unfolded for millions of years. Stepping into this chapter feels like stepping deeper into the forest's heart, where sound drifts softly and presence is steady. Steady changes begin as the sun lowers. A simple scientific truth anchors this evening transformation. Many forest animals reduce their heart rates and energy use at night. Mammals slow their movements to conserve warmth. Birds fluff their feathers to trap air in insulating layers. Amphibians retreat to moisture-rich hollows where humidity prevents their skin from drying. Even insects, though seemingly tireless, modulate their activity in response to temperature drops. These physiological adjustments help animals survive with minimal effort, allowing rest without complete withdrawal from their surroundings. Surroundings matter deeply to creatures of the forest. In a quiet hollow, deer pause among ferns, their legs folding gracefully beneath them as they settle into shallow depressions. The warmth of the earth rises gently through moss and soil, offering comfort. Deer rest lightly, ears attuned to distant sounds, a soft rustle of leaves, a faint crackle of bark adjusting in the cool air. Their calm presence feels like a reminder that stillness can be a form of awareness, not absence. The hush that follows seems shaped by their steady breathing, slow and deliberate. Deliberate movements also guide the fox as it steps along a moss-lined trail. Its paws land with a muted softness, barely bending the delicate stems beneath. Foxes are masters of quiet exploration, their bodies adapted for efficient, low-energy travel during twilight and early night. Their ears swivel toward the slightest sound, a beetle shifting under bark, a vole rustling beneath dry leaves. Yet their pace remains measured. They do not rush, they flow. Their agility and patience are signs of deep attunement to the forest's nocturnal tempo. Tempo shifts again, as owls glide between branches high above. Their wing feathers have serrated edges that break turbulent air into smaller currents, making their flight almost silent. This adaptation not only helps them hunt, but also preserves the forest's quiet equilibrium. You can imagine an owl emerging from the shadows, amber eyes catching hints of moonlight, its presence felt more than heard. With each smooth glide, the canopy seems to pause, holding its breath as the owl passes. Beneath the branches, small animals sense its movement but do not panic. Night brings risk, but it also brings balance. This is a world shaped by quiet agreements between hunter and prey. Prey animals, such as mice and voles, respond to this balance through stillness. They navigate with caution, using subtle vibrations in the soil and changes in air pressure to sense danger. Their hearts beat quickly, yet even they show gentleness in the way they interact with the forest floor, gathering seeds, threading through roots, and weaving temporary nests from dried grasses. Their presence may be fleeting, but their influence is real. They scatter seeds, aerate soil, and support the subtle threads that keep forest ecosystems healthy. Healthy ecosystems depend on countless interactions. Insects, though small, play essential roles in this nighttime world. Beneath fallen logs, beetles navigate through decaying wood, breaking down complex fibers into simpler nutrients. Moths drift between flowers under the pale sheen of moonlight, spreading pollen with understated grace. Crickets chirp in slow intervals, their rhythmic calls marking the evening like soft, distant bells. Even in their rest, insects contribute to the forest's balance. Their quieter hours mirror the overall calm settling across the landscape. Across the landscape, bats emerge as the sky deepens into shades of indigo. Their silhouettes sweep through clearings and over streams, feeding on insects carried upward by cooling air. Their wings, thin and translucent, move in delicate patterns that seem almost weightless. Bats, like many nocturnal animals, rely on echolocation, sending out high-frequency sounds that bounce off objects and return with information about distance and movement. This biological sonar allows them to navigate with precision while maintaining the forest's hush. Their calls are too high for human ears, but you can imagine the fine threads of sound weaving quietly through the air as they fly. Fly softly, the forest seems to whisper as larger mammals find their resting places. Bears may settle near fallen trunks, their heavy forms becoming part of the earth's contour. Raccoons tuck themselves into tree hollows or sheltered spaces between rocks. Even wolves in wilder forests lie together in warm clusters, their bodies rising and falling with synchronized breaths. These animals represent strength, yet in rest, they embody vulnerability and trust. Their stillness reinforces the idea that night is not merely a time of hiding, but a time of restoration. Restoration is also found near streams, where amphibians gather in the cool shimmer of moving water. Frogs lower their calls into deeper tones. Salamanders emerge from damp crevices, their smooth skin reflecting faint light like polished stone. They move slowly, conserving every bit of energy. Their survival depends on moisture, so nighttime offers them a respite from the sun's drying touch. Their presence adds to the forest's subdued music, a gentle chorus woven from soft croaks, subtle rustles, and the delicate drip of water along stones. Stones beside streams often hide aquatic insects shifting through their nocturnal cycles. Some species climb onto rocks to molt, shedding their old forms. Others drift through the current as larvae, sensing vibrations from the outside world. Their subtle transformations happen quietly, yet these cycles support fish, birds, and countless forest organisms. The continuity of life depends on these secret, gentle shifts. Night reveals them only to those who know how to listen. Listen, and you may sense the forest's collective heartbeat. It is faint, but present. It moves through pores, pressing into soil, wings gliding without sound, whiskers brushing against leaves, and bodies settling into restful curves against the ground. This shared rhythm binds creatures together. Whether predator or prey, insect or mammal, each animal responds to the night with a mixture of caution and ease. Their quiet movements echo a deeper truth. Rest is not the absence of life, but its quieter form. Form by form, each creature contributes to the forest's resilience. Deer disperse seeds through their tracks. Foxes regulate populations of smaller animals. Owls control rodent numbers. Bats reduce insect populations. Even the smallest ant plays a part in breaking down organic matter. These interwoven roles ensure that the forest remains balanced, a living network shaped by subtle contributions rather than dramatic acts. Acts of communication also unfold in darkness. Wolves communicate through low, steady vocalizations. Some birds use soft chirps to maintain contact within their flock. Frogs call to one another with gentle persistence. Even insects release chemical signals to help their colonies coordinate. Sound travels differently at night. Cooler air carries vibrations farther, but animals often choose softer tones, preserving the stillness around them. This nighttime language feels like a tender agreement between species. Species that share the night also share its vulnerabilities. Darkness can obscure predators, hide obstacles, and reduce visibility. Yet animals have evolved ways to navigate these uncertainties. Deer rely on keen hearing. Owls rely on sight adapted to minimal light. Foxes rely on scent trails. Each adaptation reflects a long history of responding to night's challenges with calm, steady precision. These are not creatures rushing through danger. They are being shaped by countless generations of gentle persistence. Persistence defines their existence. Forest animals do not seek conflict unless necessary. They conserve, adapt, and rest. They understand energy as something precious. They know when to pause. Their choices, built into instinct, mirror lessons often overlooked in human life. That rest can be protective, silence can be wise, and slow movement can be powerful. Powerful too is the feeling of safety in observing them. Let your breath follow the ease of their quiet movements. Let the fox's steady steps ease tension from your thoughts. Let the owl's smooth flight calm the spaces within you. Let the deer's gentle settling soften the weight you carry. The forest is full of teachers, offering patient reminders through their nightly routines. Through these routines, the night deepens. Creature by creature, the forest becomes a place of softened sounds, slow rhythms, and peaceful coexistence. Every animal, whether curled beneath branches or gliding through the canopy, helps shape this serenity. All their lives, woven together, create the forest's nighttime lullaby. From these quiet companions, we drift toward the unseen world beneath our feet. Beneath every forest, beneath every root and fallen leaf, there is another world, darker, quieter, and older than the canopy above. It stretches through soil and stone in delicate threads, spreading in slow arcs that rarely meet the light. This is the underground world of roots and fungi, a vast network that binds the forest into a living whole. Entering this chapter is like stepping into a deep, cool breath of earth. Everything softens, everything slows, the soil feels close, holding stories that drift through its hidden pathways. Pathways formed by roots create the foundation of this subterranean realm. A simple scientific truth grounds the beginning of our journey. Fungal networks can extend for miles, linking trees into shared systems often called the Wood Wide Web. Through these threads, made of microscopic fibers called hyphae, fungi connect with tree roots to exchange nutrients and water. Trees provide sugars from photosynthesis, while fungi gather minerals from distances roots cannot reach alone. This cooperation is ancient, spanning over 400 million years. It is a partnership built on quiet balance, one woven inch by inch in the dark. Dark as it is, the underground world is full of movement. Roots extend through the soil in slow exploration, growing toward moisture and nutrients with deliberate precision. They sense gravity, water pressure, and chemical gradients. Where the soil is soft and rich, roots branch eagerly. Where it is compacted or dry, they pause, adjust, and find a gentler path. Over time, these branching patterns form labyrinths beneath the forest floor, an intricate architecture shaped not by sight, but by sensation. The soil cradles these structures like secrets. Secrets also move along fungal threads. When a tree is stressed by drought, it sends chemical signals through its roots. Fungi receive these messages and carry them to other trees, triggering nearby roots to close their stomata earlier in the day, conserving water. When an insect attacks one part of the forest, trees release warning compounds into the soil. Neighbouring trees detect these signals and strengthen their own defences. Even seedlings in deep shade receive carbon from mature trees through fungal networks, helping them survive until they reach light. This is cooperation on a level so subtle it almost feels like breath. Breath, too, belongs to the soil. Pores between grains of earth hold air, allowing oxygen to reach roots and microorganisms. As roots respire, they release carbon dioxide into the soil, which slowly diffuses upward into the forest air. These exchanges mirror the rhythms above, the exhale of a tree's roots complementing the inhale of its leaves. In this way, the forest breathes in stereo, one breath above, one breath below. The two movements, though separate, create a single harmony. Harmonies maintained by countless decomposers hidden in the shadows of soil. Earthworms tunnel through rich humus, aerating the ground and mixing organic material. Beetles and termites break down decaying wood, transforming fallen logs into nutrients that feed the next generation of trees. Bacteria dissolve minerals into forms plants can absorb. Fungi, with their delicate filaments, unravel complex molecules left behind by leaves and bark. Without these decomposers, the forest would drown in its own abundance. Instead, life is recycled in slow, quiet pulses. Pulses of moisture move through the soil as well. At night, when temperatures drop and dew gathers on leaves, some of that moisture drips to the ground. Soil absorbs it like a sponge. Tiny particles of clay hold water through electrical attraction, releasing it gradually to thirsty roots. Larger grains of sand allow water to drain quickly, shaping the patterns of streams and springs below. This interplay of particles determines how water flows beneath forests, influencing everything from tree growth to fungal density. The ground is always shifting, always responding. Responding to shifts in temperature is another hidden rhythm. As night cools the forest floor, water within roots and soil contracts slightly. This cooling encourages dew formation and allows deeper moisture layers to rise through tiny capillary spaces. Trees rely on these subtle movements during dry periods. Even a small influx of moisture can help sustain them. These nightly adjustments illustrate the forest's capacity for quiet resilience, an underground effort that supports the tranquility above. Above, branches sway gently, but below, roots hold firm. Some roots dive dozens of meters into the ground, anchoring trees during storms and drought. Others spread widely, forming interlocking networks that provide stability for entire stands. In windstorms, trees often sway in unison because their roots are linked so closely. This interconnectedness creates safety, allowing the forest to endure pressures that would topple isolated individuals. Individuals, however, still leave their mark on the underground world. When a tree falls, its roots decay slowly, creating tunnels that aerate the soil. Those tunnels become pathways for small mammals, insects, and even new roots from neighbouring trees. Nutrients locked in the old roots return to the earth through fungal digestion, feeding young saplings. In this way, the life of the fallen tree continues beneath the ground, shaping the next cycle of growth. Growth in the underground world moves at its own pace. Fungal networks expand only a few centimeters a day. Roots creep through soil in quiet curves. Decomposition unfolds molecule by molecule. Yet this slowness is not a weakness. It is stability. It is consistency. It is the foundation upon which the forest builds its towering forms above. Every massive trunk, every sweeping canopy, every whispering leaf owes its existence to these patient hidden threads. Threads in this subterranean web also mediate competition. When two trees grow too close together, their root systems detect each other's chemical signatures. They adjust growth patterns, reducing overlap and minimizing harm. Some species even avoid sharing pathogens by limiting root contact with incompatible neighbours. Others, especially in mixed forests, cooperate generously, exchanging nutrients through shared fungal partners. The forest's underground world is not ruled by dominance but by balance. Balance holds even in darkness. Roots and fungi navigate spaces without light, forming connections guided by chemical cues rather than sight. They respond to moisture gradients, nutrient density, and subtle vibrations. This sensitivity makes the underground world one of the most responsive ecosystems on Earth. While we often associate intelligence with movement or speed, here intelligence takes the form of adaptation, slow, steady, and deeply attuned to surroundings. Surroundings matter to all beings, above and below. The forest relies on its underground network to store memory. After a fire, roots sense minerals left in the soil and adjust their growth accordingly. After a flood, fungi proliferate in oxygen-rich layers, while roots stabilize looser earth. Every event leaves a trace. The soil becomes an archive, recording disturbances in its structure, chemistry, and moisture. In this way, the forest retains a quiet history beneath its surface. Surface impressions rarely reveal the depth of this world. Even a seemingly simple path is supported by thousands of intersecting roots. Every step compresses soil particles, causing micro-adjustments in fungal networks. Over time, these tiny changes influence where seedlings take root and how nutrients flow. Nothing is random. Everything is connected. The underground realm listens to footsteps as much as it listens to rain. Rain, when it falls, soaks into the forest floor and recharges hidden aquifers. It carries dissolved nutrients that fungi and roots absorb. It replenishes shallow layers where seedlings drink. Some water flows deeper, moving slowly through gravel and stone for years before emerging as springs. These springs feed streams that nourish the forest above, closing the cycle. The underground world is the conduit that allows water's journey to continue, and you will find even deeper mysteries. Some fungi emit faint bioluminescent light, creating ghostly glows beneath fallen logs. Some roots grow in spirals that mirror the growth patterns of branches above, suggesting a symmetry between earth and sky. Some soil organisms exist only in narrow ecological niches. Pockets of moisture, patches of decaying leaves, thin layers of clay. These small lives may be hidden, but they are indispensable. Indispensable, too, is the feeling this quiet realm brings. The cool scent of deep soil, the crumbly texture of humus, the soft pulse of underground life. These sensations ground the mind, easing tension and reminding us that strength often begins in silence. Let yourself feel held by these quiet connections. Let the earth beneath you offer its steadiness. There is reassurance in knowing that the forest stands not because of what is seen, but because of what is unseen. Unseen, yet essential. The underground world supports every leaf, every branch, every movement in the forest. It is the hidden architecture that allows life above to flourish. As we leave this realm of roots and threads, its calm presence lingers like a soft echo rising through the soil. From these hidden networks we rise into the shifting patterns of forest seasons. The forest breathes in seasons, each one unfolding like a long, quiet exhale across the land. This chapter opens with the truth shaped by the turning earth itself. Seasons exist because our planet tilts gently on its axis, allowing light to fall in different patterns throughout the year. That tilt is subtle, only a small angle, yet it guides the rise and fall of every forest's rhythm. It determines when buds unfurl, when leaves turn gold, when branches rest under winter stillness. As the forest shifts through these cycles, its breath becomes visible, slow in winter, deep in summer, balanced across time. Time softens when we move through a forest year. Spring begins like a whisper from the ground up. Beneath the soil, roots sense warming temperatures. Sap begins to rise in slow-moving currents through trunks, carrying nutrients toward branches that have waited all winter for this moment. Buds swell with green promise. Leaves unfold in tender layers, catching light with new energy. The air fills with soft scents, resin warming, damp soil drying, petals opening in pale colours. Tiny bursts of life appear everywhere, from the shimmer of young ferns to the quiet movements of animals emerging from seasonal rest. Spring in the forest is not a rush, it is a gradual lifting, a gentle awakening. Awakening continues through early summer, when full canopies gather sunlight in wide nets of green. A scientific pattern guides this abundance. Longer days give trees more hours to photosynthesize, allowing them to store sugars and strengthen their roots. The canopy becomes dense, layering shade over the forest floor. In this dim light, moss thrives. Moisture settles. Ferns unfurl delicate fronds. Birds weave nests in hidden boughs. Insects trace soft paths of motion, humming in warm air. The forest feels full, steady and alive. Yet even at the height of growth, the pace remains slow. Leaves sway gently. Branches move with calm elasticity. Sunlight trickles through in shifting beams. Beams of warmth begin to change as late summer drifts toward autumn. Days shorten. Nights lengthen. Temperatures cool. Trees sense these changes through pigments in their leaves, which detect the falling light. As sunlight wanes, trees begin withdrawing nutrients from their leaves, storing them safely in roots for the coming cold. Slowly, green fades into soft gold. Gold deepens into amber, copper, and red. The forest becomes a landscape of warm and silent colours, each leaf a final gesture before rest. Winds drift through branches, loosening what is no longer needed. Leaves fall in slow spirals, settling on the forest floor in gentle layers. Layers of fallen leaves begin a transformation of their own. As they decompose, they release nutrients back into the soil, feeding microorganisms, fungi, and eventually the roots of trees. This process is slow and patient, taking months or years. The forest floor becomes a soft blanket of organic matter, insulating roots from cold and preserving moisture. The scent of autumn deepens, earthy, cool, and slightly sweet. It is the smell of transition. It is the forest preparing to rest. Rest arrives fully with winter. When temperatures drop and sunlight grows pale, deciduous trees shed their final leaves and enter dormancy. This is a scientifically precise process. Trees reduce their metabolic activity, prevent water from freezing inside their cells, and strengthen their bark to resist cold. Evergreens maintain their needles but slow their internal chemistry to conserve energy. The forest becomes still. Snow muffles sound. Branches hold frost in soft white lines. Wildlife quiets, moving minimally to save energy. Winter's calm is deep, vast, and steady. It is the forest's longest breath inward. Inward movement defines this season. Water withdraws into deeper soil layers. Streams slow beneath thin ice. Animals shelter in hollows, burrows, and nests. The forest rests not in silence, but in soft continuity. Beneath frozen surfaces, roots remain alive. Fungi continue breaking down organic material. Some seeds lie dormant, ready to sprout when warmth returns. Winter is not an ending. It is a quiet hold-in place, a moment between cycles. Cycles repeat, each one subtly different. Trees record these differences in their growth rings. wide rings for warm, wet years and narrow rings for cold, dry ones. Forests remember the seasons, storing their histories in wood and soil. They adapt to long-term changes through these gradual impressions, expanding their resilience over generations. This deep memory allows forests to withstand droughts, storms, and shifting climates. Nature does not resist change. It adjusts with patience. Patience is evident in every seasonal rhythm. In spring, buds do not rush open. They unfold when conditions are right. In summer, growth is steady, not frantic. In autumn, leaves fall only after trees have reclaimed their energy. In winter, everything slows to a state of rest that supports survival. There is wisdom in this pacing. Forests move through the year without hurry, trusting the reliability of cycles that have shaped life for millions of years. Years mirror these patterns in our own lives. Times of growth, times of gathering, times of letting go, times of rest. Just as forests respond to shifting light, we respond to changing circumstances. We expand, we contract, we pause. These transitions are natural, they're necessary, and they can be gentle, like seasons drifting across a quiet forest. Forest cycles depend on movement of air as well. Spring breezes carry pollen and scent. Summer winds cool canopies and disperse seeds. Autumn gusts scatter dry leaves. Winter air settles cold and clear, reducing humidity and preparing the forest for frost. Air shapes seasons just as seasons shape air, each one flowing into the next. Next, moisture shifts across the year in its own slow cadence. Spring rains saturate soil, awakening roots. Summer storms replenish streams. Autumn mists settle in valleys. Winter snow insulates, and then melts, feeding rivers with fresh cold water. Water's path through the forest is timeless, echoing the rhythm of the Earth's tilt and orbit. Orbit after orbit, the forest endures. It grows in cycles measured not only in months, but in centuries. A single old-growth tree may witness hundreds of seasonal shifts, its trunk thickening with each passing year. These cycles define the forest's identity. They remind us that change is not disruption, it is continuity. The forest breathes with time, not against it. Time softens again as we return to the present moment. The scent of pine resin in summer, the crisp cold of winter air, the warm hue of autumn leaves, the bright freshness of spring buds. All these sensations drift together, creating a gentle tapestry of memory and feeling. Let the forest's long rhythm ease your own transitions. Let its breath remind you that every phase has purpose. You're allowed to move slowly. You're allowed to rest. Rest settles over this chapter like snow, quiet and complete. Seasons drift through forests with grace, offering lessons in patience, resilience, and balance. In their slow breathing, life continues without struggle, with seasons guiding us. We drift toward the harmonies that link every forest to the living earth. The forest is not a collection of separate beings. It is a woven world, held together by harmonies so subtle they are almost invisible. This chapter begins with a quiet scientific truth. Ecosystems function through feedback loops, exchanging energy, nutrients, and signals in ways that maintain balance across vast landscapes. These loops operate softly, the way a breeze moves through leaves or light settles across branches. They guide the forest towards stability, not through force, but through gentle adjustments that shape life over centuries. Each harmony is a thread, and all the threads together form the tapestry of the forest's enduring calm. Calm rises first from the forest floor, where decomposers work in delicate rhythms. Fungi break down fallen leaves. Insects sift through soft soil. Bacteria release nutrients that roots will absorb in spring. This is nutrient cycling, a foundational harmony. What falls becomes food. What decays becomes growth. The forest wastes nothing, allowing even the smallest fragments of matter to return to life. The scent of warm soil, the crumbly texture of humus, the soft echo of movement beneath the surface all speak to this ongoing transformation. Every patch of ground is alive with quiet purpose. Purpose flows upward into the roots of trees, which absorb water and dissolved minerals. These minerals travel through trunks in slow-moving currents, guided by sunlight captured in leaves far above. Energy flows downward from the canopy in the form of sugars produced through photosynthesis. Water moves upward. Food moves downward. This exchange creates a balance within each tree, yet the harmony extends beyond individuals. Through underground fungal networks, trees share nutrients, allocating more to younger saplings or stressed neighbours. These subtle exchanges help the forest maintain stability even in difficult seasons. Seasons shift, and harmony moves with them. In spring, forests breathe out moisture through leaves, releasing tiny droplets into warm air. This moisture rises, cools, and contributes to the formation of clouds. A single forest can influence rainfall patterns across regions. The harmony between forest and sky becomes visible in mist lifting from treetops at dawn, in clouds forming near mountain forests, in the way air grows more humid as sunlight filters through dense canopies. You might imagine that rising mist drifting like a soft sigh, carrying with it the memory of leaves, bark, and soil. Soil and sky are not the only partners in the forest's quiet dance. Animals play their part in countless subtle ways. Birds scatter seeds through their droppings, shaping the distribution of trees. Small mammals bury nuts, forgetting some, allowing new saplings to grow. Insects pollinate flowers, connecting distant plants in slow-moving lines of genetic exchange. Each creature's action is small, yet together they create patterns that stretch across entire ecosystems. The hum of nighttime insects, the rustle of wings through undergrowth, the soft patter of animals moving over moss, all are sounds of life contributing to balance. Balance also emerges through predator-prey relationships. Predators do not dominate forests, they guide them. By keeping herbivore populations steady, predators help ensure young plants have the chance to grow. When wolves return to certain forest regions, their presence subtly reshaped entire landscapes. Deer moved more cautiously, vegetation recovered, streams grew healthier. This harmony is not loud. It is a slow adjustment, a ripple that spreads across seasons, and even where large predators are absent, smaller ones, owls, foxes, snakes, maintain quiet stewardship over the forest floor. Floor and canopy connect through light, another essential harmony. Trees compete for light, yet their branches adopt patterns that allow for shared illumination. Some species grow tall with narrow crowns, others spread out with wide branches. Gaps in the canopy create beams that reach the understory, allowing ferns, shrubs, and young saplings to survive. In these beams, dust glimmers like tiny golden particles, leaf edges glow, moss drinks in faint warmth. This cooperation through competition creates a mosaic of growth, each plant adjusting to the shifting patterns above. Above, the air carries chemical messages released by leaves. When a tree is stressed by drought or insects, It emits airborne signals that alert neighbouring trees to prepare, closing pores, strengthening defences, shifting internal chemistry to preserve water. This communication is not conscious, but it is effective. A forest responds not as many separate entities, but as a single, interconnected organism. The air itself becomes a messenger, a soft carrier of warnings and reassurances drifting through branches. You might imagine these signals moving like faint blue currents, invisible but present, weaving through leaves in slow waves. Waves of harmony also trace through water. Rainfall nourishes soil, streams distribute nutrients, rivers carve paths that determine where forests thrive. Trees near water grow taller and stronger, drawing steady moisture into their trunks. Wetlands at the edges of forests act as sponges, absorbing excess water during storms and releasing it slowly during dry spells. These natural rhythms protect forests from flooding and drought. The harmony between water and land is centuries old, shaped by erosion, sedimentation, and the slow migration of rivers. Rivers flow into larger cycles: the carbon cycle, oxygen cycle, nitrogen cycle, each essential to life. Forests store carbon within trunks and roots, releasing oxygen into the atmosphere. They host bacteria that convert nitrogen into forms plants can use. Through these cycles, forests shape the very air we breathe. Their harmonies ripple outward, influencing global climate, weather systems, and the stability of entire regions. A deep truth settles here. Forests are not simply homes for life. They are architects of life, shaping the conditions that allow countless species, including us, to exist. Existence in a forest is not solitary. Every organism's role supports another. A fallen log becomes shelter for insects. Those insects feed birds. Birds spread seeds that grow into trees. Trees provide shade that cools streams. Cool streams support fish whose nutrients eventually return to soil through decomposers. The cycle repeats. Each action supports another, forming threads of interdependence that hold the ecosystem together. Even the quietest moments, a spore drifting, a seed falling, a leaf drying, contribute to the greater harmony. Harmony has an emotion to it, a sense of belonging that resonates through the forest. When you stand among trees, even in imagination, there's a feeling of being part of something older and larger. The rustle of wind through leaves, the layered scents of earth and pine, the dim shimmer of twilight settling into branches, all these create a sense of connection that goes beyond observation. It becomes a feeling of home, of grounding, of being held gently by something constant. Constant does not mean unchanging. Forests shift with storms, fires, and droughts, yet resilience is built into their harmonies. After a disturbance, seeds sprout. After fire, certain cones open and release new life. After heavy winds, fallen branches become nutrients for future generations. Forests recover not through resistance, but through adaptation. Their stability comes from flexibility. Their harmony arises from continual adjustment. Adjustment is also visible in the underground networks that support forests. Mycorrhizal fungi not only share nutrients between trees, but also help them absorb water in dry conditions and resist pathogens. These symbiotic relationships demonstrate a harmony deeper than cooperation, a merging of needs and strengths across species. Roots intertwine. Fungi spread in delicate webs. Together they create a foundation that supports everything above. At night, when the forest grows quiet, these underground connections hum with activity, unseen but essential. Essential harmonies extend beyond physical exchanges. Forests influence the emotional and mental rhythms of people who walk through them. Studies show that time spent among trees lowers stress levels, regulates heart rates, and restores cognitive balance. Yet the scientific explanation only reinforces what many people feel intuitively. Forests calm us. They slow our inner pace. They align our breath with something older and steadier. The harmony we sense is real, mirrored in our biology. Biology mirrors ecology in its simplicity and depth. Just as ecosystems rely on steady nutrient cycles, our bodies rely on cycles of rest, breath, and quiet internal repair. The way a forest restores itself through nightly cooling, moisture redistribution, and metabolic slowing reflects how humans restore themselves during sleep. When we rest, our inner networks rebalance, tension releases, thoughts settle. Forests embody this rhythm constantly, offering a living metaphor for what it means to let go. Let go now into the recognition that harmony is everywhere, in the way leaves turn toward light, in the way soil holds roots, in the way seasons reshape the land without urgency. Forests thrive through cooperation, adaptation, and quiet exchanges of energy. These patterns echo through every part of nature, showing us that life is not a solitary endeavor. The world around us moves in relationships, not isolation. Isolation dissolves when we see how deeply interconnected everything is. Even the smallest seedling contributes to the forest's future. Even the faintest insect hum plays a part in pollination. Even the slow decay of fallen logs feeds the next generation. This is the harmony that holds forests together. This is the harmony that shapes life. Life in the forest continues in this steady rhythm, balancing growth with rest, movement with stillness, light with shadow. The forest breathes, and in its breath, we find a mirror of our own quiet needs. Harmony arises not from perfection, but from constant gentle adjustment. It is a truth woven through leaves, soil, roots, and wind. You can rest within this balance too. The forest calm belongs to you as much as it belongs to the trees. Its rhythms can steady your breath. Its stillness can soften your thoughts. Its harmonies can guide you inward. With these harmonies surrounding us, we return softly to your own place of rest. You've travelled through silence and science tonight, drifting through leaves, roots, winds, waters, creatures, and the slow breathing of forests across time. Each chapter carried you deeper into this calm green world, where every movement unfolds at its own patient pace, and every sound melts softly into the next. Now the path begins to turn inward again, returning you to your own place of rest. The forest steps back a little, not vanishing, but settling around you like a comforting presence. Its rhythms continue, steady and hushed, gently guiding your breath. Your breath becomes part of the forest's quiet exhale. The long cycles of seasons settle beside the steady rise and fall of your chest. The scent of pine resin, the warmth of sunlit bark, the cool shade beneath high canopies, they linger like gentle memories. The forest's patience gathers around you, reminding you that rest comes naturally when the world slows. Just as trees ease into night by closing their leaf pores and lowering their activity, you can let your own thoughts soften, their movements becoming lighter and less insistent. Less insistent grow the echoes of the day. You're no longer carrying its noise, its weight, its expectations. You've walked through the hidden rivers that move beneath roots, the winds that speak between leaves, the animals that settle quietly into dusk, and the underground threads that hold entire ecosystems together. And now those images drift like soft currents around you, loosening whatever tension remains. Forests do not rush. They do not cling to daylight. They simply deepen into darkness, trusting that the night will hold them. You may feel that same trust settling into your body. Your body responds gently to this invitation. Shoulders soften. Breath evens. Thoughts spread out like fog settling into a valley. The forest has shown you that slowing down is not a weakness, but a rhythm older than memory. Even in the quietest hours, activity continues, subtle, necessary, perfectly paced. Roots exchange nutrients, soil breathes, leaves adjust their chemistry to match the dark. Nothing stops, everything simply shifts toward rest. You can shift with it now, letting your inner landscape find the same slow, steady balance. Balance forms in moments like this, when the world grows still and your attention grows soft. You've wandered through canopies suspended in green light, through ancient trees holding centuries of memory within their rings, through the soft presence of animals who navigate night as a companion rather than a threat. Each part of the forest exists because every other part supports it. You too are supported. The quiet around you is not emptiness, it is connection, holding you in a gentle cradle of calm. Calm deepens with every quiet image that returns. The shimmer of dew on fern fronds, the hush of moss under soft paws, the muted gold of autumn light falling through tall trunks. These details drift through your memory like leaves floating across a still pool. The forest has shared them with you not for knowledge alone, but for comfort. In the same way animals slow their heartbeats at night, you can let your own pulse slow, giving your body permission to rest without resistance. Without resistance, your attention drifts back to the harmonies threading through the forest, roots sharing water, fungi carrying signals, winds dispersing scents and messages. All these exchanges create stability without any single being needing to control the whole system. That gentle weaving reflects your own internal world. Rest does not require effort. It requires allowing muscles to loosen, allowing thoughts to quiet, allowing breath to settle, allowing yourself to be held by the moment. The moment expands softly, like night spreading across branches. In this widened stillness, you might imagine the forest breathing with you. A long inhale through millions of leaves, a long exhale through shadowed soil. As you drift here, your place in this calm world becomes clearer. You're not outside these rhythms. You have been walking within them from the first step. Your thoughts echo the patterns of seasons. Your feelings mirror the movements of rivers. Your rest mirrors the forest's nightly descent into peace. Peace gathers now at the edges of your awareness. It arrives like mist rising from forest floors, like cool air settling in hollows, like birds nestling deeper into sheltered branches. This peace is not something you must reach for. It comes naturally when you allow yourself to stop holding the day so tightly. You have given your attention to the forest's quiet wisdom, and now it returns the gesture, wrapping you in softness. Softness deepens with memory. Think of the trees that stood for centuries, adjusting to storm and drought with patience. Think of roots threading through soil, finding water through touch alone. Think of small animals curled in nests, trusting the safety of darkness. These images do not demand anything from you. They ask only that you rest alongside them, sharing the night with beings who understand the value of stillness. Stillness begins to settle into your breath. Every inhale feels broader. Every exhale feels longer, warmer, more grounding. The forest has shown you that stillness does not mean the absence of life. It means life arranged in its calmest form. You are part of that form now, drifting into alignment with rhythms that have shaped Earth for millions of years. Nothing asks you to hurry. Nothing asks you to think clearly. You may drift, soften, dissolve into quiet. Quiet wraps itself around every remaining thought. And as it does, a gentle reassurance rises within this final chapter, tender and warm. If you're still awake, your body already remembers the way toward rest. That memory is older than words, older than forests, older than thought itself. It is the memory written into your heartbeat, your breath, your cells, the ancient knowledge that rest is part of living. Living slows here, not in decline, but in release. The forest's lessons gather into a single truth. Everything rests, everything renews, everything moves at the pace it must. You're allowed to follow that pattern. You're allowed to settle deeply into the quiet within yourself, to trust that rest will come naturally as soon as you stop reaching for it. For a moment, imagine yourself lying at the edge of a forest clearing. Above you, branches sway in gentle arcs. Around you, the air smells of pine and soft earth. Beneath you, the ground holds the day's warmth. You do not need to move. You do not need to speak. You simply exist in this calm, breathing world, embraced by its steadiness. Steadiness becomes gratitude in the closing breaths of this story. Thank you for walking these quiet paths, for listening to the whispers of wind and water, for letting the forest carry you toward rest. You have travelled through a living world shaped by harmony, connection, and patience, and now that world offers its final gift, a doorway into sleep. Step through softly, let the night hold you. Let your thoughts drift like leaves across a still pond. Rest is part of the world's oldest rhythm. Good night.